Hey guys, Jill here from ZenSpill. Going today to talk to you about Webpagetest. So I did a video a couple of years ago that actually did really well, but that one is clearly outdated, and I wanted to bring you up to speed on what Webpagetest has done. Now, this is not going to be a full in-depth tutorial. You should get enough out of this video to be able to understand some of the basics of what you're looking at. But this tool is just so vast, there's no way I could do it all in one video and keep it concise. So I am just going to cover the parts that I think are most relevant to most beginner users, just so you have a good understanding of where your page is. So when you get to Webpagetest, I would suggest creating an account. You do get about 300 tests in a free account, so go ahead and take advantage of that. There is a pro version, which is really affordable. I think for beginners it might be overkill. I haven't even tested it out yet. Once I do, I'll do a video on that as well. What it does, it helps you understand how the changing of some of the metrics where you improve, you can do testing to better understand how those tests result in improved performance. So it's just a whole environment where you can actually do a lot of testing. So we're not going to worry about that today. So let's just dive in real quick. Again, beginner level basics, not going to go into advanced. When you get to the site, you're going to start a site performance. Just do the whole thing. There are some options here where you can choose specifics. We're just going to do a full site performance. Enter your URL exactly as it is. If you're using secure site, use HTTPS. If you're using www in your URL, make sure you include that as well. So just make sure it is exact so you get the proper metrics. Then you're going to choose whatever country you're closest to. Germany, Canada, India, Virginia has an option for mobile or desktop. So typically most bloggers see mobile as a higher percentage of traffic, and everybody else usually sees more desktop. My personal sites, I always choose desktop first because that's where I get most of my traffic, but I do recommend that you do both. Okay, so do a mobile test, then do a desktop test because you want to make sure you're good on both. And then go ahead and click Start Test. If you feel motivated, you can go ahead and use advanced configuration. If you feel you're up for it, you can choose specific locations, specific browsers, and some other options down here. Not going to cover that today. Once the test is run, this is the page that you're landed on. Okay, and it'll just give you when it was run, the time it was run, and then the settings that you selected. It'll show you a sample of your homepage screenshot, and then this is just a landing page that gives you a general overview. Okay, so right now we're on the performance summary page. I'm not going to go through all these drop downs. I'm going to go through the ones that I think are the most relevant. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about opportunities and experiments right now. You can see the page, but I'm not going to worry about these because a lot of these issues are found within some of the other things I'm going to show you in a minute. So because this is really more for the pro, I'm not going to cover it. Filmstrip is important because it helps you understand the timings of how your site is loading. So if we start at the beginning, okay, you can see at the 0-second mark, the page is white. Here, a half a second, it's still white. At 1 second, it's still white. And then you can see it starts to load at 1.5 seconds. Okay, but you can notice it's in red, which is telling me largest contentful paint. So what does this mean? It means that there's something going on here that is really large and it's just loading it slow. And if I look at these two, I can see the logo looks like it's causing a little bit of an issue with the load time. Okay, we'll look into that and see if we can figure out why. But here it's saying 61% of the site is loaded, which is pretty good. Okay, so you can see how it goes across the board. You know, it runs, it runs. It must be loading something here. It's waiting for something here. That explains the yellow. There's a visual change, meaning something else is loading that is changing the look of the site. Okay. The black means nothing's happening. Again, there's something else here that's showing. Okay, so a lot of yellow. So I'm not seeing too many problems. There's no real visual change or layout shifts except for here, and that's because of the logo. So it's just a great way to kind of see what's loading when. Okay. And then when we scroll down, what's really cool about this, you can see the red line here with the little circle on the top. If we use this and just go through the site, it matches up down here with another little red circle line with a dot. Okay, so look, watch this one down here. Okay, right now it's here. Nothing's started yet, nothing's moving. When I move, that little line moves. Okay, as it moves across, what this is doing, it's helping you understand when things are loading. Okay, so right about this point where the largest contentful paint is when things start to come into the picture. So that's when the CSS is coming in, when the header PNG is coming in. Okay, so it's just showing when things are loading. Okay, this site's actually in really good shape. Probably not the best example to do this with because it's in good shape. I don't see a lot of issues here. So it's rare that I see only 3 blank spots. But if you have like a whole slew of blank spots, that's showing that you have issues. Okay, this one's loading in about 1.5 seconds visually to users, which is pretty good. Okay. Details is where I spend most of my time. The details is a more in-depth look at how things are doing on your website, how things are loading, what the metrics are, all the things that you need to really make informed decisions. So I'm going to just look at run 1. Okay, so this is the first look when somebody's first coming to a website, no caching or anything going on. This is the one I usually use to make all my analysis. Okay, I'm not going to go over all of this because, again, this is an overwhelming tool. I'm just going to show you what you kind of should be looking at. Okay, so let's kind of cover what some of these are. First byte is basically your server time, and you want this to be less than 1 second. So if I scroll down here, this first line, if this is under a second, your host is pretty good. Okay, sometimes I see this line come out to here. I'm not kidding, which means your host is really bad. This first line is basically, I go to your website, I want to see it. The server or your host is saying, okay, I need a couple seconds to get everything ready and deliver it to you. Okay, this one is under a second, which is fantastic. So that's what first byte is. If you're seeing a number up here that's like over a second or 2 seconds or 3 seconds, you've got problems. So you should really consider a new host at that point. Starts rendering at about a second. That just means when are things starting to happen on the site. So that's about a second. FCP is an important one because this tells me when anything visual on the site is starting to happen. Okay, so now look, if we scroll across, okay, and go to 1 second, that's when things are starting to render. And 1.03 is when we're starting to see a visual. So these are pretty close. Okay, so this is where we're starting to see the visual things appear on the site. Okay, we typically want to see this be under 2 seconds. The slower the better. 1 second is fantastic. Speed index just kind of gives us an idea of how long it's taking to load, how fast things are going during load time. I don't look at this too much. I focus on first byte, FCP, LCP, which is how long it takes to show the largest element on the page. So for this one, it's 1.245 seconds. We like to see it be under 2.5, so this is fantastic. So that is this. So you can see the largest element on the page might be this big block of text or the social media buttons. We're not sure, but it's all showing at about 1.2, which is fantastic. Okay. CLS is the cumulative layout shift. Essentially, we'd like this to be 0. This usually is a problem with banner images with text on them or logos. If it's in the green, it's fine. You don't have to stress over it. Unless you're a type A like me and want it to be 0, you need to figure out what it is. But in the most cases, you're going to be fine with 0.068. That's pretty darn good. Okay. TBT is the time between the FCP and when somebody can interact with the site. So basically what this means is, yes, this might be loading fairly quickly, but the user may not be able to click on anything or use anything for a little bit of a length of time. So this is something we definitely want to look at. What's preventing it from actually being usable. Okay, so something we might want to look at. This is running at about 2 seconds. We like this to be about 200 milliseconds or less. So definitely a red flag here. We'll have to see if we could figure out what's causing that. I don't worry about DC at all. So time, it's actually saying it's taking 14.9 seconds to load the whole website, which is really, really long. So there is something going on here because we really want to see this one be 3 seconds or less. So this we definitely have to look at. Why is it taking so long for the site to load that long? It shouldn't take 15 seconds to load a site. You can see it right here, 14.9 seconds. And then total bytes, we do like to keep our entire website 1 megabyte or less, which is about 1,000 kilobytes. So her site size is pretty good. So with total bytes, that is everything on your website. That means every file, every JavaScript, every third-party thing that you're downloading. The smaller that number, the better. So those are the main metrics I'm looking at. All of this is written out in a post I did about Webpagetest, so you can always refer back to that. I think I tried to make it as clear as possible. So definitely keep those metrics in mind. Then we can scroll down and actually see what's going on. Okay, why is it taking 19 seconds? All right, well, right here, this is a biggie. Okay, she does have Mediavine on her site, so that's going to increase load time. So we're not as concerned about the load time if you're going to have Mediavine, because by default, it's going to increase the load time. But I'm still concerned about this TBT. We want to make sure nothing's blocking our user from having a good experience. This may very well be an issue. Okay, so when something is highlighted in red, okay, and you can look up here, this means it's a 404 response. Okay, that's what it's showing you, a red. This means this file does not exist on the website. So what's happening is the website's trying to deliver a file that somewhere in the code says it's there, but when it's trying to deliver it, it can't because it's not there. So this is something that definitely needs to be looked into because this could be a large part of that blocking. So I would definitely absolutely fix that like ASAP. Other than that, I am not seeing really any major issues right off the bat. So all of these waterfall views help you understand what's happening with your site. Her site's really good. Everything's kind of sticking to the left. A little bit here. The Grow Me is delaying things just a tiny bit here. The logo, actually the logo's fine. Manifest, I don't know what this is. A little bit of a blockage going on here. So what you want to do is, you kind of want to see everything stick as close to the left as possible. And then what you're looking for is these little bump outs. Are these things that you can fix? And you might not be able to. Like, I don't know what this is. Audio eye, do you need that? Is that something that you're actually needing? Because it is, delaying things a little bit here. Okay, so all these different things add up and you want to just make sure that they're not impacting your user experience. Okay, so that is what I look at in details. Is my waterfall kind of sticking to the left? Are there things in there that are, trying to be delivered but they're not really there? So those are the things you want to focus on. Okay, core web vitals. Okay, we know our core web vitals are pretty good from the page we just looked at. We do have a blocking time. Okay, of 2355 milliseconds. So we do have to kind of figure out where that is. I'm probably not going to fix that today. I don't want to get too in depth because I want to keep this easy, but this is definitely something you want to look at. Your core web vitals may not match exactly what PageSpeed Insights is telling you. They're two different tools. They run off two different tests and they use different environments to test with. It's actually good to run both. You may fail on PageSpeed Insights and do well here, or vice versa. Using both just helps you get into a better position. So if it looks good here, just do a double check in PageSpeed Insights or check your Google Search Console and see if it's telling you there's any issues. But getting the whole perspective is really best for your website. Optimization. So this is just an overall performance overview, and I do like using this just to get a bird's eye view of what's going on. So progressive JPEGs. Okay, so it looks like there's just some JPEGs that might not be as compressed, or they might not be using WebP. This one is actually the app Grow Me login issue here, but you have a couple. Oh, this is a Mediavine. We can't do anything about that. So, some of the things here you may not have any control over. You can't control the JPEGs coming in from a third party. So if it's a Mediavine image causing issues, nothing you can do about that. Same thing with caching. You may not be able to cache all the files, like you can't cache Google Tag Manager, MailerLite. These are not things you can cache because you don't own control over those files. But you do want to make sure that you're caching any content that you actually host. So you just run through here. AudioEye, you can't cache those. It would have to come from their side. GrowMe, you can't cache those. Mediavine. So it looks like your stuff, the website items are being cached properly. It's the third-party applications that are not. So nothing you can do about those. So security score is important. I'll go through that on a different page though. There's a couple different pages you can get to that from. Content. Okay, this is just telling you how your content types are broken down, how many CSS files you have, how many font files. This is a good way to check if you have too many fonts being used. That is one of the biggest issues I see on websites. People have multiple fonts installed, and that is a huge, huge burden on your site. So you just want to run through this, just make sure it looks pretty good. She's not horrible. She's got a lot of JavaScript, but she's got a couple of those third-party applications running in. So she might need those. So you can see everything down here. So the GrowMe, the AudioEye, analytics. So you just want to make sure you do in fact need all of these. And if you do, that's fine. Fonts, this I just noticed. Actually, this one looks like it might be blocking. So we want to make sure that this is deferred or asynced. Make sure this is installed in a way that it doesn't block anything, because usually the X means it's blocking something. And then domains. So these are the domains that you're pulling in assets from. So these are things that you don't necessarily control all the time. So you can see the domain I Love My Chai has 20 requests. Those are internal requests. Those are fine. But you have all these other websites that you're pulling in resources from. Just make sure you need them all. That's all. If you need them all, then they stay. There's nothing you can really do about them. And this is telling you the size of those files. So 30% of your load of your website, or the size of your website, remember we talked about your total website size really should be under 1 megabyte if you can do it. So you want to see how much of your files are contributing to that. So I Love My Chai is 30% of your total site, and then AudioEye is quite a bit, 27%. So you can see all the averages through here. Just a good way to understand what is using up a lot of weight on your site. Okay. Image analysis, I'll go over in a second. And then the last thing is the security score. I do put a lot of stock into this. I do try to keep my sites as secure as possible. These are items that will protect your website from various vulnerabilities, including your clients' vulnerabilities, like being hijacked while they're clicking a link on your site, or how content is being delivered to another site. Is it being delivered securely or not? So doing this is really important. This is more of a high-level thing. You may not be able to do it on your own, also because the security headers are usually put into either an htaccess file or sometimes in a header file, but every host is different. So I could not even I can give you a guide, but I can't tell you exactly how to do it because every host has different requirements for how it's done. So I might do a post about this in the future, but if you are at a D or an F, you really want to improve the security on your site. So I would definitely have somebody take a look at that for you. Okay. And an image analysis is the last thing I'm going to go over today. Image analysis is done through what's called Cloudinary. Cloudinary is a plugin you can also get for WordPress. I don't use it, so I'm not real familiar with it. I do this analysis when I do audits for clients, but I also use other tools as well. So you can see she actually has an A for her image score for this page, meaning her images are a good size, they're compressed, they're using a good image type, WebP images, her sizes are good. And if you click on any of these, so like say if there is one that I actually saw an image on, so like this one's saying I can save, let's look at this one, 43% in image weight. Okay, I can click on see details and it'll show me exact details. Okay, so it's telling me my format is good. She is using a WebP image for this, so that's fantastic. Compression is a B, color space, color depth is good. Fit is not good. Okay, so let's jump on to her home page real quick and then see why. So hoping there was a link. See why it might not be getting an A there. I love my chai.com. So if we look at this image, okay, we've got the dog with the hand. Okay, it's telling me it's 700 by 546 pixels. This is not 700 by 546 pixels. So what's happening is it's putting a huge post in this huge image in this little box. If I open this image, you can see how big it is. So the browser has to take this and reduce it down to this size. So that could be a little tiny bit on the page speed. It's taking a long time to load, and that's what's causing this to not be an A. So in a perfect world, you know, we want whatever size this image is, say this is, I don't know, 200 by 240 pixels, we want to make sure that we're telling WordPress to create a thumbnail in that size and deliver that thumbnail here, not the 700 wide image, because that's just going to hurt your load speed. And I'm guessing there's probably going to be a lot of those on this page. So this one's 300 by 300, which is not horrible. That's fine. Like this one, 728 by 546. Again, the fit is an issue. Okay. So if we go here and we look at this, and we can see, you know, it's obviously big. So that is a nutshell of Webpagetest. I'm not going to go through the rest of this because I don't use them and they're not really that important. I hope you did get something out of this. I'm going to try and dig deeper into each of these areas in more depth. And if you want to be a guinea pig for this and think you have a website that has a lot of problems and needs some help, please hit me up. I would love to use you as a guinea pig on the next video. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.